Imagine this. A quiet decision in New Delhi just sent shockwaves from Washington to West Africa. India, the world's third-largest energy consumer, has decided to ditch American crude and turn aggressively to Nigeria and Burkina Faso. Why now? Because Russia's sanctions have reshaped global oil markets, creating opportunities for Africa like never before. This is not just an oil story. It's a story about geopolitics, energy security, trade routes, alliances, and Africa's rise. Today on Echo Africa, we will explore why India abandoned American crude, how Nigeria and Burkina Faso became critical partners, the cascading effects of Russia's sanctions, the global economic and political impact, what this means for Africa's future. This is history in the making, and Africa is taking center stage. India imports about 5 million barrels of crude oil daily, sourced from over 30 countries. These imports fuel transport infrastructure, industrial production, electricity generation, aviation, household consumption. India's domestic reserves are limited, making energy security a top national priority. Any shift in India's oil strategy immediately impacts global oil prices, geopolitical alliances, shipping routes and trade flows, investment and financial markets. When India decided to move away from U.S. crude, it sent a strong signal. The global south is reshaping the energy map, and Africa is emerging as a key player. India's decision was strategic, deliberate, and long-term. U.S. oil prices increased due to supply-demand fluctuations. Freight and insurance costs rose amid global instability. Sanctions on Russia disrupted trade, indirectly making U.S. oil less competitive. Indian refiners needed cheaper and more reliable alternatives, and Africa offered both. The U.S. demanded India reduce Russian oil imports. India refused, asserting, "Energy security comes first. Politics will not compromise our supply." This refusal strained U.S.-India relations and accelerated India's pivot toward politically neutral partners. African nations like Nigeria and Burkina Faso offered long-term supply agreements, joint infrastructure investments, collaborative ventures with mutual benefits. Unlike America, Africa presented a win-win, mutually beneficial model. India's strategy emphasizes reducing reliance on any single supplier or political bloc. West Africa provides politically neutral, stable, and cost-effective oil. West African ports and pipelines shorten shipping routes compared to America, saving India billions annually. Nigeria is Africa's largest oil producer, with high-quality crude and a history of reliable exports. Why Nigeria? Crude quality, Bonny Light and Kwa Ibo grades are ideal for Indian refineries' reliable long-term supply. Nigeria stabilizes output to meet Indian demand. Investment opportunities. India co-invests in pipelines, ports, and refineries. Political independence. Nigeria reduces reliance on Western energy companies. Indian investment in Nigeria. India has invested heavily in refinery upgrades, pipeline modernization, port expansion. These investments strengthen Africa-India energy ties, create thousands of jobs, and improve infrastructure. Burkina Faso is not yet widely known as an oil exporter, but that is rapidly changing. Key developments: oil exploration in emerging basins, partnerships with India for early access, government-led infrastructure projects. Burkina Faso represents Africa's untapped energy potential, and India aims to secure first-mover advantage. Regional implications. Burkina Faso's rise signals a shift in West African energy dynamics, where new players can challenge traditional suppliers. Ironically, Western sanctions on Russia created opportunities for Africa. Russia redirected discounted oil to India and China. Europe lost access to Russian crude. Buyers sought politically neutral alternatives. Freight, shipping, and insurance routes shifted dramatically. Africa capitalized on this geopolitical chaos, positioning itself as a critical energy hub. Africa gains multiple benefits from India's pivot: revenue growth. Long-term contracts ensure stable income. Negotiating power. African nations can demand better pricing. Infrastructure development. Indian funding for pipelines, ports, and refineries. Refinery modernization. Value-added processing retains more wealth locally. Political independence. Reduced dependence on Western powers. Nigeria and Burkina Faso are no longer passive suppliers. They are strategic energy players. The U.S. is watching closely. India's shift reduces American crude exports. Africa's rise challenges decades of Western energy dominance. BRICS-aligned nations gain influence. This historic realignment forces the U.S. to rethink its global energy strategy. India's approach is multi-layered. Diversification, avoid over-reliance on any single supplier. Global South partnerships, strengthen ties with Africa, Russia, and other emerging economies' energy security. Ensure reliable supply for a growing population. Infrastructure investment, build and modernize refineries, ports, and pipelines. Political alignment, partner with nations respecting sovereignty. This guarantees resilience, independence, and long-term strategic advantage. Before sanctions, U.S.-India, Middle East-India, Russia-India. After sanctions, West Africa-India, Russia-India, Middle East-India, U.S. sidelined. Africa now sits at the center of India's energy strategy, signaling a multipolar oil world. Nigeria, established infrastructure, high export volumes, political stability. Burkina Faso, emerging oil frontier, exploration potential, long-term strategic importance. India benefits from immediate supply from Nigeria and long-term access from Burkina Faso, ensuring both short and long-term energy security. BRICS strength, India plus Russia plus Africa form a powerful energy bloc. US and Europe vulnerability. Reduced influence in Africa. Global price stabilization. African oil stabilizes markets amid sanctions. Investment shifts. Asia funds African energy infrastructure, bypassing Western control. Africa's rising role reshapes global power dynamics. Job creation, refineries, pipelines, and ports. Technology transfer. Indian expertise develops local skills. Regional cooperation. Shared infrastructure benefits neighboring countries. Sovereignty. Reduced dependency empowers African governments. India's partnership fosters sustainable development, not just resource extraction. Historically, Africa's oil was dominated by Western energy companies, colonial-era trade structures, political pressure. Now, Asia is rewriting the rules. Direct partnerships, fair pricing, infrastructure support, respect for sovereignty. This is a historic break from Western dependence. Western nations cannot dictate global energy markets. Asia-Africa partnerships are strengthening. Energy independence is a critical geopolitical tool. Sanctions often produce unintended consequences. India's pivot is a masterclass in strategy and diplomacy. Expansion into other African nations, Ghana, Angola, Senegal. Deeper infrastructure collaboration, refineries, pipelines, ports. Energy corridor development, Africa, India, Asia. BRICS-driven influence, reduced Western control over global energy. Africa's rise is permanent, and India is a strategic partner. African oil reduces Western influence. Russia's sanctions inadvertently empower Africa and India. The U.S. must adapt to a multipolar world. Europe faces supply and market volatility. This is the new energy reality. Maps showing shipping routes from West Africa versus U.S. Graphs of Indian imports by country. Charts showing investment flows and refinery upgrades. On-screen comparison, Nigeria versus Burkina Faso. Visuals reinforce the scale of Africa's rising energy influence. Oil projects bring direct and indirect employment. Training programs for engineers, technicians, and managers. Local businesses benefit from port, transport, and service contracts. Tech transfer ensures African nations gain long-term skills. This ensures Africa benefits socially and economically, not just financially. With India as a partner, Africa negotiates better with other major powers. African countries gain a seat at the global energy table. Regional cooperation strengthens peace and trade in West Africa. Africa is no longer a passive supplier. It is a strategic player. India ditching American crude is a signal to the world. Africa is rising. Old Western dominance is declining. New alliances are forming. India and Africa are shaping a new energy order. EASECHO Africa will continue tracking these developments. Africa is strategic, independent, and ascending. If you found this video insightful, thumbs up, like, speech balloon comment, bell subscribe, loudspeaker share. This is EASECHO Africa, Africa's voice, loud, clear, and unstoppable.